friends, welcome back. I'm here to do another review for all of y'all, and I was not paying attention to what was going on in my life, and I returned the library book already, the book that I am supposed to be reviewing today. So I'm hopefully going to be putting up a cute little graphic right here to tell you that today I'm going to be reviewing 5 Broken Blades. Right here. Hopefully it's right here. If not, I'm just randomly holding up air for all of you. I'm reviewing this a little bit later than I normally like to review books, and that is why I think the book got returned. Plus, I was just trying to be so on top of my library books that this and the next book I'm reviewing will both be missing from the video. But that's okay, friends, because normally it doesn't matter anyway. I write my own synopsis for each book, and so I don't need the book after I just give it a little dance for all of you. Per usual, my review will be done in 2 parts. The first part will be spoiler-free to give you kind of overview of the book, my general thoughts, and to help you decide whether or not you want to read it. And then my second part of the review will contain spoilers, and I will go more into depth about my thoughts about the book. It's mostly my chance to rant or throw questions at all of you because, I'm over here reading in my own little island, and I don't have too many people to talk about books. Hence the video that I give you all. And so sometimes I just want to throw questions at you all. And so please feel free to answer them because I'd love to talk about books. Why else do I live in this world? Why? Why did I make my career this if I didn't love books? Okay, my synopsis for 5 Broken Blades. When the king is a god, how do you kill him? You employ a poison maiden, a strong arm, a thief, his brother, and the crown spymaster. But from the beginning, their plan is fraught with peril. From pirates to assassins, the crew struggles to even arrive at the king's side to pull off the coup of the century, putting the king's brother on the throne. Questions begin to swirl about trusting each other as each one has their own reason for seeking the king's death. Can vengeance keep them united? Can they bring harmony to their home where the rich rule and the poor barely survive? Okay, to give a general idea of this book. I was at Barnes & Noble, and to gain an audience on this platform, I do try to pick slightly popular books just in hopes that it will gravitate to a wider audience or that maybe more people are searching for that title. And so this was one of those chances where I was like, this is being featured on Barnes & Noble, this is on the end caps, I'm seeing quite a few reviews on Goodreads, maybe this has the traction that I need to help build my viewership on here. I'm gonna just be transparent and be honest with you all. And looking at the title and reading the description, I knew this wasn't a book that I personally was very interested in wanting to pick up, but I just kind of forced myself to do it anyway, and that was the worst decision ever. I should have trusted my gut. Because I try my damnedest never to want to leave a bad review on a book because this is someone's art. I keep telling you guys all this. This is someone's art and love and passion, and I don't want to be the one to tell them that I didn't like it. But I didn't like it. I did not like this book. And I am so shocked to say that this is not her first book. This not being her first book, though, is very apparent by the idea behind that she sold this book to begin with. Nothing about my synopsis, the synopsis in the back of the book, the idea or concept in the book whatsoever is original. There is not enough original content in this book to make it interesting at all. And I think it takes someone who's already proven herself or written books in the industry before to be able to even sell an idea like this. Me personally, pitching books and stories and also doing my freelance work, I see what's getting put out there, I see what's getting picked up, and this is definitely not something a debut author would ever have been able to sell as a concept. I'm also not surprised to learn in further research that she was originally a YA author. I'm not sure if this is her first adult. I believe when I was doing my research, this was her first adult debut. So in a way, I guess you could say she debuted a second time because this is her adult debut, I believe. But aging your characters does not mean your writing gets aged up either. This book read YA so much. And if it was not YA, the things that she was trying to push to help make it more adult were not working, and they very much felt forced in this situation. I want to go back to my whole talk about romanticy in general and what I think is the difference between romanticy versus what I like to call fantomacy. And this book is an example of romanticy gone wrong. And first off, I would definitely like to say this is more of a Fantomacy book, because there is definitely a lot of love in this book. There's a lot of relationship concepts in this book, and I'll get more into that in the spoiler section because I don't want to give too much away in that. But I'm just going to tell you, if you don't like reading about romance, do not pick up this book then, because this book is so heavy in the romance to the point, okay? I went into this book thinking it was a fantasy book. The description and synopsis is a fantasy. It is a fantasy book. I'm going into this as being a fantasy book. What I walked away with was reading a romance book, but not in a way that it was the tropes and style of romance that we appreciate. Instead, it turned into this book that, are we putting romance in here to sell it? Because that's all this felt like at the end of the day, is that, yeah, her book was not sold and picked up because it was an original idea. It was sold and picked up because it had romance in it, and it was LGBTQ. And I really struggle with that, because is that the point of the story? Did you sell out? I am not a proponent for writing something and doing something just to sell your book. It has to have a reason behind it. It has to have art. And I'm struggling. Keep watching to understand also why I'm struggling. Also, sell the book then as romance. Don't sell it as a fantasy book. And in the same ways that I really struggled with the failures and being able to connect with the characters, I struggled the same way with Five Broken Blades. I was not able to connect at all with the characters. There really wasn't a redeeming quality. I think that the effort was trying to make them gray. There was effort to make very dark backstories. I mean, we have the brother of the king who essentially was called the Butcher of something, I believe. And so we really have these titles, we have these backstories that are delved into a little bit. We try to make them gray characters. We also tried to make them lovable so that, readers could connect. And gray characters used to be a very big popular plot trope going on. But it didn't work, and I didn't like any of them. One of them ended up dying in the middle of the book. I would have been like, cool, one less narrative I had to read. Because that was the other problem with the book. Not only were the characters extremely unlikable and people that I could not connect with as a reader, there were 5 bazillion point of views. I don't mind the huge point of views. I think Six of Crows and what Leigh Bardugo pulled off in Six of Crows was phenomenal. And I think that she did a great job, and that should be something that we learn from, is how she did her point of views. But in Five Broken Blades, that's not what happened. If you're a writer, so this is your technical part. If you're a writer and you want multiple point of views, I tend to go with the idea of pick one point of view per section or area of the story. And okay, so when I say that, I'm saying, okay, so technically this book is 3 threads of story that come together at a specific point, because it's all the assassins coming together, all their ways that they get connected, and they all come together at the end. That's not a spoiler. It's the point of the book. And so we start with the 3 different perspectives and 3 different areas of the story, as they're going about their own thing before they get connected. Now, if I was the person, I would have picked one point of view for every single one of those sections, and then found a way to wove them in, or maybe pick more of a singular person to lead the rest of the story through the rest of the book. And that's, I believe, how she does it in more of Six of Crows, is that she has the main person leading the general strong narrative throughout the story, and then some of the other point of views are sprinkled in pretty consistently, but sprinkled in. But there's a general thread leading the whole book. But in Five Broken Blades, it was decided to have every character have a point of view. And I'm not okay with point of views jumping in the middle of a scene. I am not okay with that. There are caveats to that. Because again, even in a fight scene, you can have them switch because there's different parts of the story getting viewed. But I'm talking about there's just 2 people in the story, and then it's jumping from point of view in the same scene, going just back and forth like a ping pong ball. There's no reason whatsoever. That's not okay with me. And that's the kind of stuff that was getting pulled off in this book. And I'm not okay with that. And that's not how I write. And so it was definitely something that I was banging my head with, because I got confused at some points, because when you switch, it was written in first person. So when you switch, if you don't remember that you switched, you're thinking that you're reading something from that other perspective, and you're totally not. And that was extremely confusing. The last non-spoiler thing I'm going to say is This book is very drawn out. We don't get to the really core substance of the book to the end. There was a lot of adventuring for what I felt like no reason. It did help build some backstory for the characters, which I appreciated. But generally, I just did not see the point of why we needed all of this buildup, all these separate threads coming together, why we couldn't start into a more tension-heavy portion of the story. And it just felt like a lot of tension and action and stuff was added in pointless. And I think one of the scenes does get alluded to later as having more of a point than just a random moment thrown into the story. But if you're not someone who likes long, drawn-out fantasy stories without a beautiful world that you want to live in, don't pick up this book either. Okay, friends, I am done hiding the actual point of the story. So if you don't want spoilers, you have been warned. Click away, ruin my metrics. I don't care. It is now time for me to ask the questions and to spoil. Okay, so I'm just going to go with the romance portion first because that is what I'm dying to talk about. But essentially in the book, so rewinding that a little bit, there are essentially 2 people per group coming together, and every single pairing of those people paired up. And is that coincidence or was that forced? Because to have every single person pair up in the way that they did in the book just felt unrealistic and forced and not something that was actually needed to the story to continue it forward. 2 of them I was totally okay with and I would have been fine with, but the strong arm and the thief, hell no. Why did they have to be together? Why couldn't they have just been friends? Why was this forced? How is it that just this idea of just being around people is going to make you fall in love with them? I'm not okay with that. And so this is where I started questioning whether or not this romance was on purpose or used as a selling point to sell an idea that was not original. And so if you have opinions on that and you have thoughts on that, leave me a comment because I need to know. Other thing I really struggle with the book is also there were just too many tropes thrown in. I'm starting to realize very much that I read this book too long ago and I'm forgetting the names and I don't have the book to review and I am a goof, and this review is what it is. The romance is the only spoiler thing that I will talk about, that all of them get together at the end. And so, friends, we're going to end the review there. I'm very sorry about that. Hopefully you've come to a decision. Do not fall for Barnes & Noble marketing. This is not the only Barnes & Noble marketing I have fallen for recently. I do have another one that I am hopefully going to pick up, but my reading community has said it's great, so maybe this is one of the times that Barnes & Noble gets it right. So I'm excited to pick that up. But thank you so much, friends, for listening. Hopefully this helped you decide whether or not you want to read it. I am going to try to become much better at reviews after this. Yeah, so thank you so much for listening to Dark Side of the Weird Reviews. If you like this video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to check out our podcast that I co-host with my great friend. We post every Thursdays with videos on here, as well as audio only on Spotify, iHeart, and iTunes, Apple Podcasts. God damn, I can never get that right. But thank you so much, friends. Happy reading.